I've never really been into visual novels. As far as I can remember, the only one I've ever played was Sakura Spirit. However, while I watched a YouTuber talk about well-developed characters, I heard him mentioning the name Katawa Shoujo. Curiously, I looked it up. It took me a while because at the time I didn't know how it was spelled. My first thought when I saw the pictures of it was, a crapple fetish game. Boy oh boy was I wrong. Katawa Shoujo, or Disabled Girls, is a visual novel, developed and published by the indie developer 4 Leaf Studios on January 4th, 2012. The plot revolves around Hisao Nakai, who, after a heart stroke, has been diagnosed with arrhythmia. Because of his disability, he wasn't able to go to a normal school anymore, so instead he was sent to Yamaku Academy. There, he would find all sorts of teenagers with different kinds of disabilities. I have to admit that the team behind the visual novel chose a very hard topic for the game. I was very curious what kind of direction they would be going for. Unfortunately, as soon as I started the game, I was greeted with the game's first minor flaw. The game only had a ratio of 4:3. If you want to play the game in full screen mode, and are unfortunate enough to own a 16:9 monitor or TV, like me, you have to deal with a stretched image. Although a slight inconvenience at first, I quickly got used to it. For the rest of the time playing, I wasn't even bothered by it anymore. The next thing I noticed while I was browsing through the settings was the possibility to turn the sexual content of the game off. A very thoughtful act of the developers to ensure that people who only want to experience a story are not interrupted by explicit scenes. However, out of curiosity, I decided to keep them in. The plot plays in 3 acts. During the prequel, we learn about Hisao's heart stroke, the time in the hospital, and his transfer to Yamaku. In the first act, the player is introduced to the high school, its staff, and the female love interests, as well as a few other side characters. The game offers a variety of choices from that on, which will eventually trigger one of 5 paths that lead to the second act. One for each of the girls. Of course, the player may also fail to build a relationship with either of them, which leads to the game's ending after the first act. Among these characters are the 5 female love interests of the story. Lily Zato, a motherly and kind blind girl. Shizune Hakamishi, the deaf and bossy president of the student council. With her best friend Shiina Mikado, or Misha, as a bubbly interpreter. Emi Barazaki, a fast and upbeat runner with no legs. Hanako Ikisawa, a shy and withdrawn girl with burn scars across her face and body. And Rin Tetsuka, a strange and seemingly apathetic artist with no arms. As soon as I met the first few characters of the game, I quickly realized how serious the developers handled the premise. Even in the first act, all the different girls made sure to leave quite an impact on me. For one, because the design is very pretty, but also because their personalities are very well defined. A slight annoyance was the fact that I couldn't tell which decision leads me to which girl. It's pretty much guessing or going with the flow. Though it was only on 1 or 2 occasions where I felt like I had to grab Hisao by his collar before asking him what he thinks he's doing. Where some girls, like Hanako and Shizune, made it quite easy to see which decisions lead to them, I found myself struggling to find one that led to Rin, which at the time was the girl I wanted to go for. It took me actually by surprise that I ended up with Lily, because I wasn't interested in her that much. I was thinking about whether I should just load from another point, but I decided to stick with her. Determination means to walk the wrong way until the end. However, the clever and very descriptive storytelling and the deep character development made me want to learn more about this blind girl. Soon enough, I couldn't even imagine dating any other girl than her. This is something I found true in every pair. All of the girls are very likable, lovable even, in their own way. Everyone has their own personality, own goals in life, their own virtues, and of course their own problems they have to face. The writers at 4 Leaf Studios did a very good job in keeping me interested in their own little stories to the point where I felt like I was actually in Hisao's boots. The music only adds to the immersive experience. It fits in every situation. Calming when there is a quiet scene, tensing me up when I faced a conflict, or even bringing me to tears in an emotional moment. There were countless times where I had to take a break because of this roller coaster of feelings. Even now, I like to listen to some of the tracks and remember the feeling I had when they played. Personally, I found the biggest strength beside the characters to be the art style. Each character has a wide variety of different poses, expressions, and clothing. I have not found a single scene in which they didn't fit, always spot on. Sometimes the scene is replaced by a drawn picture, and even those are always fitting with the narrative. Though, the few animated shorts that serve as an introduction and foreshadowing for the second acts seemed lacking compared to what I've previously seen. They were not bad per se, but just couldn't live up to the rest of the beautiful artwork I was given. In the end, I look at the title Katawa Shoujo and realize that my focus drifted more and more off of the girls' disabilities and more on the people behind them. The premise was a very complicated one, but the developers managed to deliver a story that will probably both break and warm your heart. I know it did both to mine. Anyone who loves romantic stories and visual novels should give this one a look. There's bound to be at least one path that you will enjoy. While it may not be a masterpiece, it is certainly something very special.